Hello, and welcome to a Pokemon XD Gala Darkness video, where today we will be going over the Houndoom line. Now, I do think this line will do fairly well throughout the game, because it does have a lot of distinct advantages. However, I could see it struggling later on in the game. But for now, Houndour has 45 HP, 60 attack, 30 defense, 80 special attack, 50 special defense, and 65 speed, and gets access to mostly fire, normal, and dark type moves, and then a few sporadic types sprinkled in there, which could come in handy, I guess. Anyway, let's go ahead and get right into it. Our Houndour in particular has a brave nature, raising its attack and lowering its speed, which I don't think is particularly good because we're mostly going to be using special attacks, and lowering my speed might run into issues later in the game, and probably early on as well. And I get access to the Flash Fire ability that makes me immune to fire and powers up my fire type attacks if I get hit by a fire move, which could come in handy. And according to Bulbapedia, it gets Ember, Leer, and Howl by level 10. So with that, let's go ahead and get right into it. And usually I'd show a fight here of the old man, but Houndour actually didn't struggle at all in the early game, so I went ahead and just brought us forward to the first Power Ranger fight. Now I am just going to ramble here for a bit because I have Ember, which does enough for basically his entire team. And that is, we are down to the second to last Spooky Month episode, and with October rapidly ending, I will try to get out the Halloween episode on Halloween, but if I happen to miss it, just expect it at the beginning of November on the usual upload dates for these. But with that being said, I'm really going to try to get this out on Halloween. I just kind of fell behind schedule a little bit. Anyway, Houndour's just about finished the fight here, and the only real threat was Seedot, and it went for Shadow Hold, so it's gone now, and one last Ember will finish off Grain. So we go inside the building, and I immediately lose to the first trainer, but later in the building, I catch this Numble, and that's because it's holding the Charcoal item, which raises fire-type moves. And at level 24, I evolve into Houndoom, which is going to see a significant boost in stats, and hopefully carry me through the early game fairly easily. And with that, Houndoom has 75 HP, 90 attack, 50 defense, 110 special attack, 80 special defense, and 95 speed. Now with those stats, it should be able to outspeed just about everything, and survive most things on the special side. However, that 50 defense is really worrying to see because I could definitely struggle against a lot of the harder hitters later in the game. But hopefully it doesn't come to that, and we beat the game fairly easily. So, on to Lovrina, who leads with a Love Disc and a Beautifly. I go for Ember, which I decided to go for the Love Disc because it has super effective damage. However, maybe I should have just gone for the Beautifly. Anyway, the Love Disc gets burnt, so hopefully in just a few turns it'll be able to be taken down. I take down the Beautifly, and then I go for another Ember to take down the Roselia, and then out comes Delcatty, her Shadow Pokemon, and probably her strongest Pokemon. I go for Ember here to take down the Love Disc, but it's very close, and it's not enough to take it down, and I lose. So the clear answer here is just to level up once and get access to the move Bite, which will do neutral damage to the Love Disc. And we go back in, I bite, and I one-shot the Love Disc. Okay. Out comes Roselia, which is obviously the bigger threat here, so I go for Ember to take it down, and then out comes Delcatty once again, which might still be a threat because I don't think it will be a one-shot. And so I go for Bite here, hoping for a flinch. I don't get it, but it really doesn't do that much damage. So one more bite should take it down. And I already know that Ember is enough to take down the Beautifly. So one of those, and I beat Lovrina on the second attempt. So not too bad. And of course, you can't have a Pokemon XD Gala Darkness video without the obligatory Mirror Bee. Take it away, Mirror Bee. Amazing. Anyway, at the Real Gam Tower, I go ahead and pick up 2 Protect TMs, and that's because I accidentally saw what hidden power type it had, and it's Ghost, and Ghost isn't good. At least, not in this context. Anyway, we go on to Snaddle. I try to use Bite into Quagsire to see how much it does. It's not quite a one-shot, Rock Tomb gets a crit and takes me down to 3 health. I finish off the Quagsire and pretty quickly lose. So, not a great display. And I don't know how I didn't bother fighting the Red Power Ranger before. He's kind of the Houndour guy. My bad. Anyway, goodbye Houndour. And after doing just a little bit more leveling, I can now one-shot the Quagsire. Out comes Lunatone. Water Gun takes me not too far down. It's actually not doing too much damage at all. I take down the Lunatone. Out comes Cast Form. I should be able to take down the Cast Form in a single hit, which I do. And then all that's left is Matang. Water Gun still hasn't even gotten me to half health. Ember takes down the Matang. And a Bite should probably two-shot it. So, one Bite, no flinch, Water Gun, and one more Bite. Okay, well Snottle wasn't too bad, just needed a few more levels. On the SS Libra, I go ahead and teach Protect over Howl and Flamethrower over Ember. And we move on to Gonzap, who leads with a Nuzleaf and an Electrode. I go for Protect on the first turn to not get hit by Fake Out, and I go for Flamethrower to take down the Electrode. Then he sends out his Vileplume, which I don't think should be a threat at all, because I can take it down in a single hit. And out comes Whiscash. Now I think this might actually be his strongest Pokemon in this fight. I go for Bite, get a crit and take it down. Okay, well, I guess it's not so scary now. Go for a Flamethrower to take down the Skarmory, and then all that's left is the Nuzleaf. One last Hyper Beam, but it's not enough to do anything, and I take him down. Gonzap on the first attempt. Okay, well we move on to Gorgon at the top of the tower, and I decide to see how much Flamethrower is going to do on Celio. Because it is part Ice type, it is neutral. I go for Protect so I don't get hit by their attacks, and then I go for a Bite to finish off the Celio. And then out comes Slowking, which should be a one-shot with Bite, which I decide to go for. And then out comes Ursaring, and Lairon goes for Earthquake here, doing quite a bit of damage to me. So it's definitely a big threat right now. And so I go for Protect a turn to just see what they're doing. And I mess up the turn order, go for Lairon instead. Another Flamethrower to take down the Lairon this time. But at this point, I might have already taken too much damage because both of these Pokemon are going to be using strong physical moves on me. As you can see there, I go for Protect to heal up what little I can. And the Ursaring's actually taking down his partner, so I decide to try to go for double Protect, but I don't get it. So I go back into the battle again, and this time I decide to Protect on the first turn and take down Lairon, because Lairon's definitely a bigger threat here. Out comes Slowking, Celio Body Slams, gets a crit, and paralyzes me, and I lose. Okay, well I go back into it once again, and I get Body Slammed and paralyzed again, and lose. Okay, that was just very unfortunate that it happened twice in a row. So on my fourth attempt here, I go back to the original plan. I decide to just take down the Celio first, because apparently it's really good at spreading paralysis on the first turn. So I go for Flamethrower now to take down the Lairon. And then out comes Ursaring. Slowking uses Water Pulse. Now I really don't want to get hit by Water Pulses because they have the possibility of confusing me, but unfortunately it's safer to take down the Ursaring, so I just kind of have to live with that luck. Out comes Primeape. Another Water Pulse, taking me down to nearly half. I go for another Protect here just to heal up. Earthquake comes out, getting a critical hit on Primeape, which is nice, so I know I'll be able to take it down in a single hit. And I do. Out comes Hypno, his last Shadow Pokemon. Water Pulse again, taking me down below half, right at half. Another Protect just to heal up what I can. Another Earthquake, so I know Hypno will be taken down in a single hit, so I decide to take down the Slowking because I have a pretty decent special defense, and yeah, that didn't really do too much, and a Bite takes it down. Okay, well Houndoom is doing fairly great, actually. It's sitting around the bottom of S tier with its time going into Citydark Isle. However, I have seen cases like this where it might slip all the way down to B, so let's just see how it does. Our first rematch is against Lavrina, and I go for Bite into the Gorbis because it is the opposite gender of me and it will use Attract. Unfortunately, I do risk paralysis now. I go for Bite to take down the Gardevoir. Out comes Farfetch'd, who is our first Shadow Pokemon. and the Roselia uses Leech Seed on me, so I do want to take it down, but I know for a fact that Far-Fetched Confusion is more dangerous because of my low defense stat. Fin Missile not doing too much to me, and now I can take down the Roselia. And then all that's left is the Altaria, which is doing a decent chunk of damage to me, about a quarter. I go for Protect just to heal up a little bit, and I go for Bite, hoping for a flinch, which I get, and it looks to be a 2-shot, so I finish off Altaria pretty easily. And hey, look! Another Houndoom. Hello, friend. At level 59, I get access to the move Crunch, which I'm going to teach over Smog, and this will be my endgame learn set. No physical moves whatsoever. Anyway, we move on to Snaddle again at the top of the mountain. I go for Crunch into the Quagsire, which one-shots it. Out comes Scizor, which I know I can take down with a Flamethrower. However, I am going to take down the Matang because it seems to be going for Thunder Punch, and I don't really want to be paralyzed. So I'm going to take it down first. Out comes Solrock, which will probably be a one-shot. Unfortunately, the Scizor actually does get a Omni boost from Silver Wind, but I take down the Solrock in a single hit because it's definitely more dangerous because it could set up Shadow Sky. I go for Protect here just to get a little bit of health back, and then I decide to take down the Scizor this turn. Unfortunately, because of that, I do risk being confused by the cast form, and luckily I don't. And I'm actually faster than Starmie, so I'm able to take it down in a single hit. All that's left is the cast form, and I get confused, and I attack through it. Okay, well that could have been scary, but Snaddle down. Moving on to Ardos, he leads with an Alakazam and a Shadow Swallow. And in this run, I'm actually going to take down the Swallow first, because it's definitely a scarier Pokemon. And unfortunately, I do kind of have to rely on Alakazam not paralyzing me, because his next Pokemon coming out is Kingdra, which uses Hydro Pump. So I need to take it down. And then once again, another Pokemon that can do super effective damage to me, Heracross. So I need to take it down. And then next comes the Electabuzz, his second Shadow Pokemon, which is definitely more dangerous than the Alakazam, so I need to take it down as well. And it actually goes for Shadow Half here, which is kind of lucky, because that means that I actually don't need to focus on it first. I can take down the Alakazam, and then I can take down the Shadow Electabuzz, and Flamethrower takes it down, and all that's left is the Shadow Snorlax, which I do think has the potential to one-shot me if it gets a crit, so I start going for bites here to flinch it as much as I can. Shadow Wind comes out, doing well over half my health. So yeah, this could have definitely gone a lot worse. But luckily it didn't hit, and I got a flinch, and he goes down. Moving on to Gorgon once again, and he leads with an Ursaring and a Slowking, which is probably a better matchup for Houndoom anyway. I go for Flamethrower here to take down the Ursaring, and then out comes Walrein, which might be the only real threat here, but I take down the Aggron first anyway. And then out comes Poliwrath. I don't really have anything to hit Poliwrath for super effective damage, or even neutral damage, so I go for Flamethrower here, and do about half its health. It sets up Shadow Sky. Walrein goes for Earthquake, which guarantees that I'll be able to one-shot the Poliwrath, and Fruity Pebbles rain down. I go for a Protect here just to stall a turn of them, so I can eventually start healing again. And now I have to decide whether or not I want to take down the Poliwrath or the Walrein. I decide to take down the Poliwrath because if Walrein uses Earthquake again, it'll do a lot of damage to the Mr. Mime. It goes for Ice Beam though, and so I go for another Protect here. Shadow Storm, Earthquake, and it's doing about a third to the Mr. Mime. So I should be able to one-shot the Mr. Mime, guaranteed now, so I take down the Walrein. Shadow Storm comes out, doing a shocking amount of damage. I didn't think it'd do that much, but luckily it didn't take me down, and I beat him first try. Moving on to Eldis, he leads with a Ninjask and a Shadow Manectric. And Manectric is always a bit of a threat because it's a lot quicker than a lot of Pokemon, but I'm actually faster than it, so I'm able to take it down. And the Ninjask is going for Dig, so it's not really a threat. And I go for Crunch into the Salamence. It's not quite a one-shot. Shadow Rush gets a crit and nearly takes me down in a single hit. Okay, well I go for Protect here. And I go for Crunch into Salamence to take it down. And then out comes this next Pokemon, which is Flygon. I go for Protect here. And Double Edge. I go for Crunch, and I'm actually able to take down the Flygon in a single hit. At this point, I've almost recovered back to half health, which I do now. I Protect again, Shadow End, and I go for Flamethrower into the Marowak, which takes it down in a single hit, and then all that's left is the Lapras. Now I do need to attack this turn, so I do get hit by Dig, which does a decent amount of damage. Lapras gets hit by the Flamethrower, and I go for one more Flamethrower to take it down. And as long as the Ninjask doesn't get a crit, I think I'm safe. So, one last Flamethrower. Takes it down. And we beat Eldest on the first attempt. Okay, well this is going surprisingly smoothly. Let's see how the Shadow Lugia fight goes. Shadow Blast gets a crit and takes me down to 12 health, and I don't take it down in a single hit. So I lose the first attempt against Shadow Lugia. Okay, well that's fine. As you can see, it do almost half health on a non-crit, so definitely kind of a close battle. But hey, I'm able to beat him, and I move on to the final boss, which is Greevil. He leads with a Shadow Rhydon and Moltres, and I go for Protect here just to heal up a little bit before I start attacking. Crunch is enough to take down the Rhydon. Executor comes out, and I think I'm in a safe spot, but actually I get taken down in a single hit by the Moltres. So I use my rare candies, come back into the battle at level 75, and once again one-shot the Rhydon because it's definitely the bigger threat here due to my low defense stat. And so now I'm going to take down the Moltres with a Crunch. Hopefully it one-shots. It does. And then out comes Tauros, which I think it would also be a one-shot. But I decide here to actually take down the Executor because even though Tauros is going to be setting up Shadow Sky, if I can one-shot Articuno with Flamethrower, it should be using Shadow Hold next turn. And so it's not really a threat while I'm taking down the legendary bird. So I go for Flamethrower and take down Articuno. Okay, well out comes Zapdos. Now Zapdos I predict is going to be quite a threat because Zapdos is always kind of scary. So I decide to Protect here. This is now the 4th turn of Fruity Pebbles, so this next turn it's going to be its last. So I take down the Tauros, get hit by a fairly strong Shadow Bolt. I start healing up, I go for one last Protect, so hopefully I won't be able to be two-shot unless it gets a crit. And Flamethrower actually just takes it down in a single hit. So with that, Houndoom has beaten the game. And with a pretty good stat spread. It beat the game at 9 hours 13 minutes and 20 seconds at level 75, and only fainted 12 times throughout the game, which is really good. And in fact, its only boss that it struggled with was Gorgon, and that's mostly due to bad luck on paralysis. All the other bosses only took at most 2, and the only places it struggled throughout the game were either really early on when it didn't have a lot of moves, and not much anywhere else. So with that being said, I'm going to place it in the A+ tier, because it's definitely closer to Jolteon's time than it is Blastoise's time. And even though Jolteon beat the game ever so slightly faster, I do think the fact that Jolteon actually struggled against some of the bosses and lost quite a bit more makes it a little worse in this specific instance. So I'm going to give Houndoom the 2nd spot in the A+ tier. And honestly, it exceeded my expectations. I thought it'd be probably an A-tier Pokemon, but it definitely just went through the game without a care in the world for the most part, and came out on top for the most part as well, even despite its really, really low defense stat. So, I guess that's just about it. I don't really have too much else to say. If you did enjoy this video, consider liking and subscribing. If you have any Pokemon suggestions, put them down below. I have a few for November coming up, and I already have planned for what I'm going to do on Halloween. So be prepared for those. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.